I haven't done this in a long time, so hopefully I'll do it correctly. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel and welcome to part 2 of the plant grow out tank. In the last episode, unfortunately, I couldn't continue filming since the tank obviously is broken. To repair the tank, I had to get a new piece of glass and that unfortunately took a few days. Now, you might actually notice that things have changed in the back here. The 3-foot tank is actually now filled with water completely. I actually did get an aquarium mat. I didn't have one previously, that's why it was only halfway filled. Now it's fully filled, and I actually also added a few more plants, especially the plants that were still standing around and didn't have a place to go. They had to go somewhere. They slowly but surely didn't look too healthy anymore, and the 3-foot tank obviously now is more planted than it was before, and the fish are definitely benefiting from that. So plus it is just way nicer to look at a full tank and not a half full tank. Yet we are not here for this tank or for any others, we are here for this one. And in today's episode, yes, we are going to be taking this tank apart completely. So I'm going to be cutting out all the silicone. I'm going to take off every single plane of glass, and I have the new plane of glass right there. Here is the new plane of glass, and it is not cracked, thankfully. And obviously it's going to be replacing the one on the back here. Join me on this episode. We'll rebuild this tank completely, and then we can actually set up a proper plant grow out tank. More plants coming on the way, so I'll definitely need this to store them somewhere. And this is obviously going to be perfect. So I haven't done this in a long time. Hopefully I'll do it correctly, but I would say let's get all the silicone off. Before we actually take apart the aquarium, I want to actually know which piece goes where at the end of the day. So I got some painter's tape that I'm just going to add to each piece of glass. I'm just going to write on there front glass, back glass, bottom, left or right. And then we can basically start taking this apart. Good morning everyone, it's a few days later, and as you guys can see, the lights on the tanks are still not on. I unfortunately need to go to work in a few hours. I have late shift. But yes, I still had to go to the hardware shop to go get a few things. Let me put down my coffee and I'll show you guys what I got, because we'll be needing those things a little bit later. But yeah, let me put down my coffee first. So, the first thing I got is a silicone gun. I did have one for quite some time, but I gave it away to a friend, and this was years ago, so I got a new one. A silicone gun, caulking gun, yeah, depending on what you use it for. I got one of these to obviously apply the silicone, and I got some more painter's tape. Now the painter's tape is going to come in handy a little bit later as well, once we actually start siliconing the tank, but I'll get to that a little bit later. The goal for today, or the goal for this morning more or less said, is to just try and get all the silicone off the old pieces of glass. So I'm going to start doing that. And I did want to get a razor scraper, but unfortunately I forgot to buy one. So I'm just going to be using the cutting blades out of my knife. It's going to be a little bit fiddly since they are quite tiny, but I should get most of the silicone hopefully off. And then, well, we just need to clean the glass completely. The only thing that I still need to go get is some isopropyl alcohol or acetone, one of the two, just to clean all the glass from all my finger oils most probably, and then we can actually start gluing the glass together with silicone again and hopefully have a new tank that won't leak. But I'm talking too much. Let me actually just start working and get the silicone off the glass. There we go. The glass is free of silicone. Not completely. There's still a few places here and there that just need to be properly cleaned. I need to most probably get a metal sponge just to scrape the rest off, and there's still a bit of calcium buildup on the corners, and obviously where the silicone sort of protruded a little bit, there was quite a bit of calcium buildup in between there that I just need to take off as well. Otherwise, we are basically almost done, though I need to go to work, so I will most probably see you guys tomorrow. For you guys, it's just going to be in, well, a cut, so see you guys just now. So a few days have gone by now once again, and I actually did head off to my local hardware store one more time just to get a few more supplies. As you guys can see, I have them here. Well, the sandpaper I didn't get there, I got it at work, but this I'm going to be using for the bottom plate of the aquarium. The edges of the bottom plate are not polished and beveled. They're basically just cleanly broken and sanded a little bit, and they're quite rough. So there's still a bit of silicone that actually is in the cracks everywhere. So I'm just going to take some sandpaper, make it wet, and basically just wet sand all around the edges, polishing it a little bit, and obviously just sanding out any sort of silicone that is still there, and that should alleviate that problem. The other thing that I bought, which I actually should have done from the very beginning, and that is actually to get a razor scraper, a proper razor scraper. This thing is absolutely amazing, and it is extremely sharp, and it takes silicone off like a dream. Also way safer and way more practical to use than just basically using a blade. That was a little bit risky of me, but the razor scraper is just so much better, and it is extremely cheap. Just go to your local hardware store, look for one of these, or ask anyone there who works there to show you where these are, or just go online, look up for a razor scraper. I'll give you guys a little bit of a shot on how easy it actually takes off silicone from the old back plate, and it is absolutely amazing. And the other thing that I got is just some one-time use gloves, since working with silicone is just going to get my hands full of silicone firstly, and secondly, once I've actually cleaned off all the glass pieces from my fingerprints and taken all the oils off and everything and dust and so on, anything that could contaminate the silicone, the one-time use gloves are just going to be perfect for that, so I can just slide them on and then basically just work around the glass without being too paranoid of putting any sort of fingerprints on there or contaminating the seal of the silicone. And then I'm going to go and use the painter's tape that I bought and basically just mask off everywhere that I don't want silicone basically to be. Once I've actually siliconed everything together and smooth out the silicone edges, the painter's tape is just going to make it very, very easy to just give some very, very clean and crisp edges. But I'm going to go and do all of this, and then once I'm done, I'll be back with you guys and mask everything off, and then we can start siliconing the tank together, and we'll have a brand new aquarium, technically said. It's the next day once again. Last night just got a little bit late, and yeah, there was just not enough time still last night to still silicone everything together. So today is the day, and I'm just going to use some good old window cleaner. This should be fine. I'm just going to go over all the edges just one more time. Obviously, I'm going to put on some gloves just to stay to keep my fingers from staining the glass. So I'm going to clean all the pieces of glass, and then I'm going to do a dry fit, because honestly, I can't remember exactly how everything fit together again. So I'm going to do a dry fit, and then once I'm done with that, then I'm going to, silicone the tank together. Now, I'm not going to be adding silicone to the glass with the towel underneath it. I'm going to use some baking paper. That's just going to prevent the tank from, prevent anything from technically sticking to my table. And the baking paper is hopefully going to peel off easily, but if not, it doesn't matter. I can just razor scrape it off in the end. I'm going to clean off all the glass pieces and then, yes, dry fit, and then we can get going. A bit nervous. I haven't done it in many years, so yeah, let's just dive in and get started. Well, there we go. The tank is all glued together, and it was way easier than I actually thought, and also than I remember. Now, I did smooth off the silicone on the insides everywhere. I tried to get rid of as much excess silicone as possible. Now I'm gonna take all the masking tape off, and that's going to leave me with clean silicone lines from when I smooth it out, and let the silicone cure for a day or two. Just a matter of time and patience. Once again, another 2 days have passed. This has been a very time-consuming project. I mean, there's been several days in between doing everything and getting everything together and so on and so forth. I think my planning could have been a little bit better and smoother. The patience and all the waiting definitely has paid off. The silicone is definitely cured. I mean, it's been 2 days now, and on the instructions it did say to wait at least 24 hours until you actually add water and everything. And the instructions also advise to basically rinse out the tank 3 times by filling it up completely and then emptying it again. And unfortunately, I don't have the time for that. To grow out the plants, I'm not going to be filling the tank up completely with water anyway, but I'll get to that a little bit later on the reasons why. For now, I'm going to take off all the masking tape. I'm going to be scraping off all the excess silicone that has basically been squished out, and all the little spillage that I made here and there, but that should be no problem, especially with the razor scraper that I have now. So let's get this all off. Do a leak test. Definitely going to fill it up all the way for that, and just let it sit for a few hours, and hopefully no leaks occur, and hopefully the tank stays all in one piece. I still want to paint the back of the aquarium black. I have some black paint in one of my cupboards somewhere. I'll still have to find that. I also need to reattach the LED light that is on the 3-foot tank at the moment. It was on the inside of the lid. My best friend, he zip tied it to the old lamp. I'm just going to do exactly the same. It's the easiest solution. Put the tank onto its place and then set it up for some plants. After a few hours of filling the tank up, there are still no leaks to be seen. So yes, the silicone is all cured and everything is holding up perfectly together, and my repairs worked. That is definitely a check. Unfortunately, I went through every single cupboard in my apartment looking for the black paint to paint the back of the aquarium black, but I just can't find it. So I opted to go with a frosted background, since I still had quite a big roll of that lying around. It does look quite cool, though I can remove it later on at some point and paint the back black. I might do that at some point, though I will say this is a check as well. Now, in the previous episode, I took the lid and I cleaned it thoroughly and painted it black. It was quite sunburned, and the electronics inside also burnt it, leaving quite a little bit of a brown spot on the top. So the black also just looks way cleaner, and it makes the lid look brand new. Now, all I need to do is still attach the LED light that I have on the 3-foot tank at the moment, and then the tank has some light again. And that is a check as well. There we go. Everything is ready to be set up, though unfortunately I don't really have that much space anymore here in the living room. So the only space that I do still have is in our corridor, and that is above our shoe cupboard. So I'm gonna go and set up the tank and get the light on and everything, and then I'll briefly explain on how I want to set everything up. Obviously, I'm going to show you guys as well. There are 2 methods of setting up a grower tank, and I'm basically going to go for in between both of them. I'll explain that just now once we get the tank into its position. It is the next morning once again. Last night my wife got hungry, and for those of you who know, well, you'll know. We are going to finish off the grower tank definitely today. It's high time that I actually get this done, and I've spent way too many days doing all of this. As mentioned, I want to briefly explain what method I'm going to be using. And there's two methods. The first method is the submerged method. It's basically setting up an aquarium. You have your simple substrate layer, you have a very simple filter, and you fill the tank completely with water and you plant your plants just like you would in an aquarium, and you let them grow. That is method number one. Method number two is the emerged method, and that is basically taking the plants that you buy from the shops that come in the little pots with rock wool. You add a thin layer of water so that the pot is basically submerged, meaning that the roots are underwater and the plant basically grows out of the water. In my opinion, there are a few more benefits to growing the plant actually emerged than submerged, and number one of them being is that CO2 is abundant in our atmosphere and the plant can just thrive off the CO2 growing out of the water way easier than actually growing in the water, and you don't actually need to inject CO2 into the water column to get a faster plant growth. So free CO2, that is definitely a win. And the other benefits are that the plant is actually going to grow bushier and smaller leaves just by being out of the water column. Since when the plant is actually underwater, it actually needs to grow bigger leaves to absorb more CO2 out of the water column, meaning that the plant is actually just going to grow much bigger. And I want to keep them nice and small and bushy and with small leaves. So that is actually one of the benefits of growing them emerged out of the water. The other benefit is that light doesn't need to travel as far through a water column to get to your plant. I want to have the benefits of both, basically. I want to have an emerged and a submerged setup in one tank. And obviously you can't have the benefits of both of these, but I'm going to try my best to at least have one section that I can actually plant plants underwater and another section where the plants can actually be somewhat out of water. So I'm obviously going to not be filling the tank up completely with water. That obviously would defeat the point of having a emerged setup. So here's the idea that I have. So this is the only in vitro pot that I have left, and it's a pot of Eleocharis, and as you can see, the top is just absolutely bulging. They've completely outgrown this in vitro pot, and the roots are already turning quite brown, so there's also not much nutrients left in here for them to carry on growing. So I'm going to get them out. They definitely need to come out of the in vitro pot, and I'm going to plant them into the substrate. So they are actually going to be growing under the water, and well, they can grow out of the water if they like, but at least they aren't going to melt away over time. In the ground tank, they are at least going to carry on growing, and I don't need to watch them melt away in the pot. Let me get them into the substrate. Okay, we are back in the living room. The Eleocharis is planted in the soil, and I'm here with the Half Moon tank. In the previous episode, I showed you guys that the ferns here in the Half Moon tank are all producing new shoots, well, new baby plants. And we can just cut the entire leaf off where the shoot is actually growing off on, and we can plant them into these planters that you get when you buy some plants. I've kept quite a few of these just for this reason. These are going to be perfect for growing them immersed out of the grow tank. Anyways, if you guys haven't seen the build video on the Half Moon tank, I'll put a tag up there to the playlist. So if you guys want to go check it out, quite a cool little build. And I would say let's just cut off some ferns, plant them in here, and then I still have quite a bit of anubias that is in a bowl of water that they also don't look too happy. Those I actually just want to glue to some rocks and put them in the grow tank, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start propagating some plants from the ferns here in the Half Moon tank. Okay, we are outside of my yard. I'll be quite honest, I was just way too lazy to take the entire table inside, and the lighting inside is also not the best, so outside we are. I have all the plants here. I still took a few other plants out of the 3-foot tank. The rainbow cribs have just been busy excavating around, and a lot of plants have just also been dug up. So I'm going to be putting them into pots as well. I have, well, a handful of rock wool here, and I've got all my pots, and some of the pots also still have some weights inside of them. Not all of them, but this should be enough, I hope. Anyways, I got quite a few ferns out of the Half Moon tank. They were a bunch of shoots, but I'm obviously going to bunch a few shoots together, so it's going to be like 3 or 4 plants together in a pot. They can then happily grow away in the grow out tank. So let's get started and let's get the plants into the pots. Well, there we go. The grow out tank is complete, and it was quite a fun little project. Little project. It took quite a bit of time, and there was quite a bit to do, and obviously to rebuild the entire tank. But it was a lot of fun, and I have a grow out tank now. The plants are obviously going to take a few weeks to actually start growing and settle into the tank. I do need to add a heater at some point. It is pretty cold in our apartment, and especially in the corridor, it gets even colder. And winter is on its way, so yeah, not looking forward to that, but I'll definitely keep an eye out on it. I'll keep every single one of you updated on the grow out tank as time progresses. And who knows, maybe I'll still fill it up completely with water. I'll have to see. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment down below. It would help the channel out quite a lot. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to not miss out on future content and future updates on the channel. There's still a lot to come, and there's still quite a few projects that I'm working on. Especially now with the plant grow out tank, I can actually get some more plants, even though there's more plants coming on the way. But yeah, I'm absolutely pleased with the way that it turned out, and I'm also very, very pleased that I got to refurbish an old tank and actually fix it, even though I broke it in the end. As mentioned, it was quite a cool little project, and hopefully this inspires you guys to also, get an old aquarium and not to shy away from repairing an old aquarium, since it is easier than it looks and one can save quite a bit of money by doing a project like this. Anyway, I'm going to go and relax a little bit, and I will say I'll catch you guys in the next one.